Welcome to the Leading Life Podcast, the place where leadership meets real life. Here is where we talk about leading with intention, living with clarity, and getting better results for the people we serve every single day. If you're ready to grow, you're in the right place. Let's go. Right now on today's episode, how to build unbreakable mental resilience. You know, if there's any topic that is needed most out there in leading our lives, leading others, working toward fulfillment, all those things is this very subject. And in this episode, we're going to talk about why some of us struggle with staying mentally strong. But most importantly, we're going to talk about how to build better mental resilience. And I shouldn't say just better, but unbreakable. And so I'm going to say the quiet parts out loud. There's going to be no fluff, no listener traps, just actionable steps that you can take today. Hi, I'm Andy Zook, and this is called the Leading Life Podcast because we need to be the leaders of our lives. This is our life. We get one shot at it, and nobody else has the investment in it like we do. So this podcast is all about leading our own lives, making intentional choices, and living the most fulfilling life that we can. Each episode is designed to give you real-world tools to help you show up as your best self at work and in life. So yeah, let's dig in to how to build unbreakable mental resilience. Because if there's one skill that determines whether someone rises or falls, it's not talent, it's not intelligence, it's definitely not luck, but it's resilience. The world feels heavier than it used to. Life today is fast, and it's moving faster than we've ever seen it before. It can be uncertain, it can be noisy, and it can be emotionally demanding. So people are carrying all kinds of things inside of them. Financial pressure or health worries, relationship strains, constant comparison with all these things on social media now. And then just there's a barrage of nonstop bad news that we can access in a second. And quietly, many of us just feel tired out. We feel exhausted inside, not physically, but mentally. And that's when the mind gets tired and hope starts to fade. Confidence starts to shake and our identity starts to blur. That's why resilience isn't just a hopeful thing anymore. It's essential. And here's the great news and why you're listening to me right now. Mental toughness is trainable, just like fitness. And so I want to give you the how so you can be more mentally strong. And these are considerable trainable pillars: awareness, social connection, insight, self-reflection, purpose, and meaning. Mental resilience is often understood. It's not pretending everything is fine. It's not suppressing our emotion, and it's not being hardened or cold. Real resilience is simpler and stronger than that. It's the ability to feel the pain that life gives us without losing our direction. So resilient people still struggle, they still grieve, they still get overwhelmed, but they don't stay down. They return, they rebuild, they rise again every time. And here's why some people break and some others grow. Research in psychology shows something powerful. It's not adversity that determines the outcome, it's meaning. So two people can face the same hardship at the same time. One will become bitter while the other one becomes stronger. And the difference is in the story they tell themselves. I want you to clue into this because resilient people learn to say, this is hard, but it's not the end. Or this hurts, but I can grow from it. And this very moment does not define my future. That shift in meaning changes everything. Large population studies show how resilience strongly relates to mental health and longevity. Higher resilience is linked with better medical health outcomes, life satisfaction, and lower anxiety and depression, even under stress. So people with the highest levels are about 53% less likely to die within a decade in a long-term aging study. Mental strength is not just a mindset, it's tied to real health and survival outcomes. So before we jump into the 6 pillars, I want to explain what is happening to your brain right now when you're not feeling mentally strong. Remember that mental weakness is not a character flaw. So there's no judgment. It's just your brain under prolonged stress that is shifted into survival mode instead of growth mode. Remember the amygdala. It is constantly scanning for danger. And so it becomes overactive. When stress is chronic, it's hyperreactive. It's when neutral situations all of a sudden feel threatening. And then anxiety and defensiveness and irritability start to increase. This is why people start to feel like everything is too much, or I'm so easily triggered emotionally these days, or I'm feeling like I'm always on edge. Mentally, this feels like losing control. Biologically, it's just a protection system stuck on overdrive. That's the first thing I want you to realize if you're feeling mentally weak. Secondly, the prefrontal cortex weakens. This is the calm, wise leader of your brain. The prefrontal cortex handles your decision making, your emotional regulation, your long-term thinking, and self-control. So lots of chronic stress and high cortisol reduce activity here and even shrink neural connections over time. So that means that it's going to be harder for you to stay calm. Multiple impulsive reactions, or you have negative thinking loops, or you start feeling mentally foggy. This is the exact opposite of resilience, which depends on a strong prefrontal cortex guiding your emotions. And then the hippocampus shrinks. That's our memory, our perspective, our meaning. The hippocampus helps put experiences into context. It helps us form memories, learn from our past, and regulate the stress hormones. Long-term stress can reduce hippocampal volume and impair learning and mood stability. That's why low resilience often includes rumination, feeling stuck in the past, or difficulty seeing hope or progress in your life. And then there's dopamine and motivation. When someone feels defeated or overwhelmed, dopamine signaling decreases, and their motivation, their drive, and their pleasure drop, and then effort starts to feel pointless. That's a horrible, horrible cycle. Low energy brings on less action brings on fewer wins even lowers our motivation. But remember, it's not weakness, it's neurochemistry. And then number 5, part of why we feel this way is stress hormones stay elevated. So chronic activation of the HPA axis keeps our cortisol high, and it affects our sleep, anxiety, belly fat, believe it or not, inflammation, reduced immune function, like meaning we could get sick more, and then faster aging of brain cells. This is why long-term emotional stress can literally age our brains. So here's the powerful truth I want you to hold on to. The brain is plastic. Everything above is reversible. Studies show resilience-building habits can strengthen your prefrontal cortex, calm the amygdala, regrow the connections in your hippocampus, restore dopamine motivation pathways, and lower baseline cortisol. So in other words, mental strength is trainable biology, not just positive thinking. So let's get into how we build better mental resilience. So I want to share something personal because the subject isn't just theory, it's real life for so many of us. I mean, all of us at some time have felt like, God, am I going crazy? I just don't know how much more I can handle. We've all had those feelings inside, those emotions. And I married someone with incredible resilience, deep mental clarity, and a remarkable sense of self, my wife, and obviously. And what makes that even more remarkable is everything she has had to overcome through different seasons of her life would make it impossible to believe that she was able to be who she is. Her strength isn't accidental, it was built. And watching that journey is what leads us into what I call the 6 pillars of unbreakable resilience. Pillar number 1 is belief. Belief that there is something greater than your current struggle. Something for you, not against you. This is the first thing I need you to really get into your mind. This doesn't have to be religious. It can simply be a quiet conviction that your life has meaning, that you are being carried toward growth, and your story isn't finished yet. I've seen this firsthand. The fact that I'm even here speaking to you right now after surviving a car accident at 19 is proof to me that there's a force pushing us toward becoming stronger, wiser, and ultimately unbreakable. And resilience begins the moment you choose to believe that your life is moving toward something greater. So when you meet people who have reached true desperation, you'll often notice something is missing. In many cases, they haven't just lost hope in their situation, they've lost belief itself. And so I want to be honest with you, I'm not religious, but I do have deep respect for those who live with a strong faith. But what I do believe is that we are connected in ways we don't fully understand, and that there is a force of good in this world quietly pulling us forward. I believe the universe is not working against you, but for you, that your well-being, your growth, and your success are not accidents, but possibilities waiting to be stepped into. And resilience begins the moment you allow yourself to begin to believe that something good is still unfolding in your story. So number one, belief. Belief that the world and the universe is working for you. All right. Number two, emotional honesty. Resilient people don't run from feelings, they face them, because ignored pain becomes heavier, but acknowledged pain becomes processable. Let's say that again. Ignored pain just creates heaviness inside of us, but acknowledged pain becomes processable. Strength begins with truth. There's a great quote by Carl Jung that I heard repeated by another podcaster whom I admire, and it really, really hit me. And that is, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Let's do it again. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung believed that we carry hidden beliefs, fears, wounds, and patterns that are outside our awareness. And those unconscious patterns quietly drive our reactions, our relationships, and decisions. When we don't examine them, life feels like things just keep happening to us, like fate. And when we bring them into awareness, we gain choice, freedom, and growth. So the real message is awareness creates power. Unawareness creates repetition. I'll give you an example. I've had some childhood stuff that has greatly impacted my adulthood, and I never really knew how. And I don't want to say it was childhood trauma. It wasn't. But there were some things and patterns in my childhood that I really need to face. And I realized how wrong it was and how much it impacted me as a kid. And I brought that into adulthood. I had hidden it so far down inside me that I didn't realize it was coming out and leaking into my relationships and my marriage, especially as a leader at work. It greatly impacted those relationships over the years. And so facing that helped me become better in every aspect of my life. This thing that I had carried from me as a child that was completely wrong, it probably would have just wrecked my life in the long run, but facing it, having my wife kind of work with me on that, really helped me become who I am, the full potential of myself, by facing that dark, unconscious thing inside of me I didn't even know was there. The moment we slow down and we name what we feel without judgment and turn it with curiosity instead of defensiveness, something powerful will happen, because the nervous system will calm, clarity will return, and we'll realize those emotions were never enemies. They were signals pointing us toward healing and growth. Real mental strength isn't pretending nothing hurts. Real strength is the courage to face what's inside, sit with it, learn from it, and choose who you want to become moving forward. All right, so that was number two. Again, emotional honesty. So number three, self-talk discipline. The voice inside your mind is shaping your future every day. Yeah. Resilient people train that voice to say, hey, keep going. Or you've survived worse so far. Hey, just one step at a time. Not fake positivity, but grounded encouragement. Every day, the voice in our mind is interpreting what happens. Either it's tearing us down or building us up. Practicing self-talk discipline means learning to notice that voice. Interrupt the harsh or hopeless story sometimes we tell ourselves and replace it with words that are honest, steady, and constructive. Over time, our brain begins to believe the words it hears most often, and confidence, resilience, and calm will start to follow. Remember, mental strength isn't only built in big heroic moments. It's built in the small, repeated sentences we choose to speak to ourselves every day. You know, sometimes I catch myself. I think I talked about this before with you guys. I'll think of something that I did that was not my best, right, when I was younger, and I'll say to myself, God, how can I be so stupid? And sometimes I'll actually say it out loud. And my wife's like, do you talk to yourself like that? That's crazy. And she's like, what happened? And I'll tell her the story. And she's like, and you're calling yourself stupid because you made a mistake or you said something embarrassing at a party, whatever. So how we talk to ourselves is everything. Remember, mental strength isn't built in big heroic moments. Like I said, it's built in the small, repeated sentences we choose to speak to ourselves. All right, so that was number three, disciplined self-talk. Let's talk about number four, to better mental resilience. That's physical stability, because the brain and the body are connected. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I talk endlessly about working out and exercise with you guys, but getting good sleep, making sure you're moving every day, getting sunlight, practicing breathing. These are not small habits. They are mental health infrastructure. A regulated body will create a stronger mind. I will tell you, in 56 years, the thing that has made the greatest impact on my life, besides meeting my wife, was getting into a flow of exercise and going to the gym. It has impacted my life in ways I would have never imagined. I physically feel better. I look better. I sound better. I'm mentally sharper. So just remember, physical stability is part of mental resilience. If you mistreat your body, you're mistreating your mind. So a regulated body creates a stronger mind. Number 5, meaningful connection. Let's talk about that because we've talked about isolation and loneliness. It really weakens resilience. They're saying that loneliness today is like equal to smoking, but our connection will strengthen our mind. Even one safe relationship dramatically improves mental recovery from stress. And no one is meant to carry life alone. No person is an island. Developing meaningful connection starts with a simple shift from trying to impress people to truly seeing them for who they are. Real connection grows when we slow down enough to listen without planning our response. We start asking genuine questions and we let people feel understood rather than evaluated. It's built through small, consistent moments of presence, remembering what matters to someone, offering encouragement, sharing honest pieces of our own story, and showing up when it's inconvenient. Depth doesn't come from perfection. It comes from sincerity and trust over time. The beautiful truth is this. When we create space for others to feel safe, valued, and known, we don't just strengthen our relationships, we strengthen the meaning of our own lives as well. And I think this is a really important one for you leaders out there when you're working with your people. Developing meaningful connections with your people is critical. And there's a lot of people I see, especially like leadership gurus and stuff I see online, like, your work crew they're not your friends and nobody at work is somebody you should have a close relationship with. And I'm going to tell you, I don't believe in any of that. Yes, you have to have borders and boundaries, but I will tell you what, the way that I work and relate with people is everything. And 95% of the teams that I have had have been stronger and top performing because of it. The 5%, you know what? That was watering dead flowers. But the other 95, those people have all gone on to bigger and better things in the company because of how I treated them, how I invested in the relationship, and made sure that connection was constantly grown, fostered, and taken care of. So that was number 5, meaningful connection. It is critical for your mind. And then lastly, we're going to talk about number 6, which is pretty simple. It's forward motion, meaning that resilient people keep moving even if it's slow. Not huge, dramatic leaps, not big changes, just the next right step, because motion creates hope and hope fuels endurance. The quiet truth about resilience is that most resilient people never planned to become resilient, but their life required it. And step by step, they discovered strength they didn't even know they had. Like I was telling you about my wife in the beginning, which means this is true for anyone listening. You are more resilient than you think you are. You've already survived the tough days, the ones that you didn't think you could handle, and you're still here. You're listening to me right now, breathing, trying to move forward, reaching into self-development to become the best version of you. That is resilience. So a simple reset for today. If life feels heavy right now, start here. Ask this question. What is the next small step I can take? Not the whole future, not the whole solution, just the next step. And then take it. Because resilience isn't built in giant moments. It's in that ordinary courage inside of us repeated daily. And here's your leadership edge for this episode. Resilient people don't wait for their life to get easier. They become stronger inside the life they have. And when one person becomes mentally strong, it doesn't just change them. It changes their family. It changes their workplace, like we talked about, their community, and their future. Resilience spreads. Let's review the 6 pillars again. Belief. Belief that there's an external force wanting you to succeed. Number 2, emotional honesty. Number 3, self-talk discipline. Number 4, physical stability. Number 5, meaningful connection. And 6, forward movement. All right, so this is your call to action for this episode. For the next 24 hours, I want you to try this. When something stressful happens, I want you to pause, take a breath, and say, I can handle this moment. You don't have to figure out the rest of the week. You don't have to figure out your future. Just this moment. You feel stressed. Just say this single sentence. I can handle this moment. Because that's how unbreakable resilience begins. I want to say thank you for listening to the Leading Life podcast. And remember, you don't have to be fearless. You just got to keep going. You don't have to be fearless. You just got to keep going. And with that said, this is how we keep leading our lives. All right. Please hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode of the Leading Life podcast. And if you can, please leave me a rating or review on whatever platform you hear me on. And again, if this episode inspired you, share it with a leader who needs to hear it. And remember, the world gets better when you get better. I'm Andy Zook. Until next time, I want you to lead with purpose, live with intention, and keep becoming who you were meant to be. But most importantly, let's change the world for the better. And let's each of us go out today and be the hero of somebody's story. I'm cheering you on. Build that mental strength. Go out and do your best. Okay? Thanks for listening. Until next time.